The kiss lasted exactly 7 seconds too long. I counted every one of them while my fiancée Sloane pressed her lips against Carter Bellamy's mouth like she was trying to breathe life into a drowning man. The engagement party chatter died around us, replaced by the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It's just how I say hello to old friends, Sloane laughed, pulling back from Carter with that radiant smile that had fooled me for 3 years. Her cheeks were flushed from champagne and whatever thrill she got from humiliating me in front of half the town. I stood there in my rented tux, holding 2 glasses of wine, watching my future wife lick her lips like she just tasted something delicious. Carter straightened his tie with the smug satisfaction of a man who just marked his territory. The bastard didn't even have the decency to look embarrassed. "Well then," I said, setting down the wine glasses on the nearest table, "let me try that greeting style." Before anyone could react, I walked over to Maya Forrest, Sloane's maid of honor, and kissed her the same way. Long, deep, with just enough tongue to make it interesting. Maya's eyes went wide, but she didn't pull away. When I finally released her, she was breathing hard. "Just saying goodbye to old friends," I announced to the stunned crowd. The gasp started immediately. Mrs. Dorsey from next door actually dropped her plate. Sloane's face went from flush to white to red again, cycling through emotions like a broken traffic light. "Eddie, what the hell?" she started. But I was already walking toward the door, pulling out my phone. I typed the message as I walked. "The wedding's off. Don't follow me." I heard her heels clicking frantically on the hardwood behind me, heard her calling my name, but I was already in my truck. The engine roared to life, and I pulled out of our Victorian house's circular driveway for what I knew would be the last time. In my rearview mirror, I saw Sloane standing in the doorway, still in her cocktail dress, surrounded by confused guests. Carter had his hand on her shoulder. How thoughtful of him. I drove to Murphy's Tavern down by the marina, ordered a whiskey, and tried to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do with the rest of my life. The bartender Lou had known me since high school. He poured the drink without asking questions, which is why Murphy's had been my preferred drinking establishment for the past 15 years. "Rough night?" he finally asked when I ordered my 3rd whiskey. You could say that. My phone had been buzzing nonstop. 17 missed calls from Sloane, 12 text messages, and a voicemail that started with, "Eddie, you're being ridiculous," before I deleted it. Maya had sent me 3 messages, all variations of, "What was that about?" I ignored them all. Around midnight, I decided to go home and face whatever music Sloane had composed for me. But when I pulled into the driveway, her car was gone. The house was dark except for the porch light. I found a note on the kitchen counter. "Gone to Maya's. We need to talk tomorrow. Don't do anything stupid." Too late for that advice. I was heading upstairs when I noticed Sloane's phone on the coffee table. She'd left it behind in her rush to chase me. The screen was cracked, probably from when she dropped it during her dramatic exit. But it still worked. I'm not proud of what I did next. But I'm not sorry either. The phone wasn't password protected. Sloane had always been careless about security, claiming she had nothing to hide. Turns out she had plenty to hide. The text thread with Carter went back 4 months. 4 months of explicit messages, photos I definitely didn't want to see, and plans that made my stomach turn. But it wasn't just the affair that got to me. It was the casual cruelty of their conversations about me. "Eddie's so clueless," one message read. "He actually thinks I love him." Carter's response, "Poor bastard. At least he's paying for everything." "The wedding will be perfect. Expensive too. Then we can be together properly." "What about after? He's not going to just disappear." "I'll figure something out. Maybe he'll have an accident working on one of those boats." I read that exchange 3 times before it sank in. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was planning to use me, then get rid of me. The woman I'd been ready to spend my life with was discussing my potential death like a weekend grocery list. But the real knife twist came in the messages with Maya. Sweet, loyal Maya, who'd been helping orchestrate the whole thing. "Is Eddie suspicious?" Sloane had texted her maid of honor. "No, he's completely oblivious. Men are so stupid." "Good. Carter's getting impatient. He wants me to leave Eddie before the wedding. Don't be an idiot. Let Eddie pay for everything first. The wedding, the honeymoon, all of it. Then you can upgrade to Carter. You're right. God, I can't wait to be done with this charade." I sat in my living room until dawn, reading through months of betrayal. By the time the sun came up, I'd made a decision. If Sloane wanted to play games, I'd show her what real games looked like. My friend Cal showed up around 8 in the morning with coffee and donuts. Cal Mason had been my best friend since we were 12, and he had the kind of face that made people want to confess their secrets. He took one look at me and whistled low. "You look like hell, Eddie. What happened after you left the party?" I handed him Sloane's phone. Read the messages with Carter and Maya. Cal's expression grew darker with each swipe. When he finished, he set the phone down carefully like it might explode. "Jesus Christ. How long has this been going on?" 4 months that I can prove, probably longer. "What are you going to do?" I smiled for the first time in 12 hours. "I'm going to destroy them." Cal raised an eyebrow. "Define destroy." "Nothing illegal, nothing violent, but I'm going to make sure the whole town knows exactly who Sloane Devereaux really is, and Carter Bellamy, and Maya Forrest." "I'm listening." We spent the morning at Murphy's Tavern, planning. Lou kept the coffee coming and pretended not to eavesdrop, though I caught him leaning closer during the interesting parts. Mrs. Dorsey came in around 10, unusual for her, since she normally avoided bars like they were contaminated with sin. "Eddie," she called out, bustling over to our table. "I heard about last night. Are you all right, dear?" Mrs. Dorsey was 73 years old and the unofficial information hub of our small Maine town. If you wanted news to spread, you told Mrs. Dorsey. If you wanted secrets kept, you moved to another state. "I'm fine, Mrs. Dorsey. Just working through some relationship issues." She patted my hand sympathetically. That Sloane always seemed a little too good to be true, and that Carter Bellamy, his family's had money for generations, but money doesn't buy class. I exchanged a look with Cal. This was almost too easy. "I'm sure they're just going through a phase," I said carefully, though I did hear some interesting things about their friendship. Mrs. Dorsey's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Oh?" I probably shouldn't say anything. It's not my place to gossip. "Of course not, dear. But sometimes people need to know the truth about others." I let her coax the story out of me, piece by piece. How I'd discovered the affair. How long it had been going on. How Maya had been helping them. By the time Mrs. Dorsey left Murphy's, she was practically vibrating with excitement. "That woman will have the whole town talking by noon," Cal observed. "That's the idea." Phase 1 was information warfare. By evening, I'd made sure that select details of Sloane's betrayal had reached key people throughout town. Not the explicit stuff. I wasn't completely heartless, but enough to destroy her carefully crafted reputation as the perfect girlfriend. Phase 2 was financial. Sloane had been using my credit cards for wedding expenses, assuming I'd never checked the statements carefully. She was wrong. I spent Tuesday morning on the phone with vendors, canceling everything. The venue, the caterer, the flowers, the band. Some of them were annoyed about the short notice, but when I explained that I'd discovered my fiancé was cheating, they became surprisingly accommodating. I also called the bank and removed Sloane from all our joint accounts. Legally, I was within my rights. We weren't married yet, and everything was in my name. Morally, I felt justified. She'd been planning to rob me blind anyway. Phase 3 was where things got creative. Carter Bellamy owned a yacht club and thought his pristine white yacht was God's gift to the Atlantic Ocean. He kept it moored at the marina where I worked on boat engines for a living. I knew that marina like the back of my hand, including which security cameras had blind spots. Wednesday night, Cal and I paid the yacht a visit. We didn't damage anything permanently. I'm not a vandal. But we did make some modifications: sugar in the gas tank, shrimp hidden in the air vents, a few loose bolts on non-essential equipment. Nothing dangerous, just expensive and embarrassing. Thursday morning, Carter discovered his pride and joy wouldn't start, and smelled like a seafood restaurant dumpster. His screaming could be heard 3 docks over. "Someone sabotaged my boat," he yelled at anyone who'd listen. "This is criminal damage." The harbor master, Jim Patterson, was a reasonable man who'd known me for years. When Carter demanded an investigation, Jim pointed out that the marina had security cameras covering most areas. "We'll check the footage," Jim said. "Though I have to say, Carter, you've made some enemies over the years. Could be anyone." Carter's face turned purple. "It was Eddie Granger. He's been acting crazy since his engagement party." "You mean the party where you kissed his fiancée?" Jim asked mildly. Can't imagine why he'd be upset about that. I watched the whole exchange from my workshop, trying not to smile. Carter stormed off, presumably to call Sloane and vent his frustrations. That afternoon, Sloane finally showed up at my house. She looked terrible. Her usually perfect hair was unwashed, and she had dark circles under her eyes. Good. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into the living room. "Do we? I thought Maya's couch was more comfortable than our bed." She flinched. "Eddie, I know you're angry." "Angry?" I laughed. "Sloane, I'm not angry. Angry is what you feel when someone cuts you off in traffic. What I feel is something else entirely. Look, what happened with Carter was stupid. I was drunk, and he was there, and it didn't mean anything. 4 months, I said quietly. She went very still. What? 4 months of text messages, photos, plans. Should I read you some of the highlights? The color drained from her face. You went through my phone. You left it here, and I'm glad I did. Otherwise, I might never have known about your little accident plan. Now she looked genuinely frightened. Eddie, that wasn't serious. We were just talking about killing me. No, God, no. Carter was being dramatic. You know how he is? Actually, I don't know how he is. I thought he was just an arrogant rich boy. I didn't realize he was a sociopath. But then, I didn't realize my fiancée was one either. Sloane started crying. Real tears, not the crocodile variety she used when she wanted something expensive. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Eddie, please. I made a mistake. A huge, terrible mistake. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling, work through it. No. What do you mean, no? I mean, no, we can't fix this. No, I don't want to work through it. And no, I'm not taking you back. She stared at me like I'd spoken in a foreign language. But we're getting married in 2 weeks. Were. Past tense. I canceled everything. You can't just cancel our wedding. Watch me. The tears stopped abruptly. You bastard. Do you have any idea how much work I put into planning that wedding? About as much work as you put into planning my death, I imagine. She stood up, her face twisted with rage. You're going to regret this, Eddie. Carter has lawyers. Good ones. We'll sue you for breach of contract, emotional distress, whatever it takes. With what money? I removed you from all our accounts this morning. Her mouth fell open. You can't do that. I can, and I did. Funny thing about joint accounts, when only one person's name is on the original paperwork, that person has all the control. Sloane looked around the living room like she was seeing it for the first time. This is my house, too. No, it's not. Check the deed. My name only. I'd bought the house before we met, and despite her hints about marriage and shared property, I'd never added her name to anything important. Call it intuition or call it luck. Either way, it was paying off now. You planned this, she whispered. You've been planning this for months. Actually, I've been planning it for about 3 days, but I'm a fast learner. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. This isn't over, Eddie. Not by a long shot. Yes, it is. And Sloane, I'm keeping the phone. Evidence. The door slammed hard enough to rattle the windows. Friday morning brought new developments. Carter's yacht still wasn't running, and the smell had somehow gotten worse. He'd hired a cleaning crew, but they'd quit after 2 hours. The marina was buzzing with gossip about the mysterious sabotage. I was working on a client's engine when Maya showed up. She looked almost as bad as Sloane had, which gave me a warm feeling of satisfaction. Eddie, we need to talk. No, we don't. Please, just 5 minutes. I looked up from the engine. Maya had always been pretty in a girl-next-door way, but now she looked haggard and desperate. What could you possibly have to say to me? I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for things to go this far. How far did you mean for them to go? None? Just the affair, or were you in on the murder plot, too? She took a step back. Murder plot? Eddie, what are you talking about? I pulled out Sloane's phone and read her the relevant messages. Maya's face went white, then green. I didn't know they were talking about that. I swear, Eddie, I just thought it was an affair. Just an affair, like that makes it better. I know how it looks, but I was trying to protect you, I laughed. Protect me? By helping my fiancé cheat on me? By keeping her distracted with Carter instead of someone who might actually convince her to leave you. The logic was so twisted it was almost impressive. You thought you were doing me a favor? I thought she'd get bored with Carter and come back to you. I thought it was better than her finding someone she might actually fall in love with. Maya, that's insane. I know. She started crying. I know it's insane, but I was jealous, okay? I've been in love with you since high school, and watching you with her was killing me. I thought if she screwed up badly enough, you'd finally see what was right in front of you. This was getting more complicated than I'd bargained for. Maya, I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know the truth, and I wanted to warn you. Warn me about what? Sloane and Carter are planning something. They came to my apartment last night, trying to get me to lie for them. They want to say you've been abusing Sloane, that you threatened them. My blood went cold. What kind of lies? They want me to say I saw you hit her, that you've been controlling and violent. Carter thinks if they can make you look dangerous, they can get a restraining order and force you to sell the house. And what did you tell them? I told them to go to hell. Whatever mistakes I made, I'm not going to help them destroy you with lies. I studied Maya's face, looking for deception. She seemed sincere, but then she'd seemed sincere for years while helping Sloane betray me. Why should I believe you? Because I'm done lying. To you, to myself, to everyone. I'm moving back to Boston next week. I can't stay here after what I've done. She turned to leave, then stopped. Eddie, for what it's worth, that kiss at the party, it was the best 7 seconds of my life. After Maya left, I called Cal. If Sloane and Carter were planning to frame me, I needed to be prepared. We spent the afternoon installing security cameras around my house and workshop. If they tried anything, I'd have evidence. Saturday brought the next phase of my plan. Sloane worked at Morrison and Associates, a high-end PR firm that handled publicity for several major companies. Her job was all about image and reputation, which made it the perfect target. I'd spent Friday evening putting together a comprehensive dossier of Sloane's activities. The affair with Carter, her plans to defraud me, the messages about my potential accident. I printed everything, organized it neatly, and put it in a manila envelope. Saturday morning, I drove to Morrison and Associates and asked to speak with Sloane's boss, Richard Morrison. I told his secretary it was regarding a legal matter involving one of his employees. Morrison was a thin, nervous man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else than dealing with personal drama. But when I showed him the evidence, his demeanor changed quickly. This is very serious, he said, flipping through the printed messages. If this is authentic, Ms. Devereaux has been using company resources for personal matters. And these discussions about insurance fraud, I thought you should know, I said, before it becomes a police matter. Morrison nodded grimly. Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Mr. Granger. I'll handle this internally. I left the office feeling lighter than I had in days. By Monday, Sloane would be unemployed. Her perfect reputation would be in ruins, and her financial situation would be desperate. But I wasn't done yet. Sunday evening, I got a call from Jim Patterson at the marina. Eddie, you need to get down here. There's been some trouble. I found Carter's yacht partially submerged at its mooring. Apparently someone had opened the seacocks, valves that let water into the hull. The boat hadn't sunk completely, but it was taking on water faster than the bilge pumps could handle it. Carter was standing on the dock, screaming at anyone who'd listen. This is sabotage, criminal sabotage. I want Eddie Granger arrested. Jim looked tired. Carter, do you have any proof that Eddie was involved? Who else would it be? Could be anyone. You're not exactly popular around here. I walked over to join the conversation. What happened to your boat, Carter? He spun around, his face purple with rage. You know damn well what happened, you son of a bitch. I have no idea what you're talking about. I've been home all evening watching TV. Bullshit! Jim held up a hand. Carter, unless you have evidence, you can't go around making accusations. I'll get evidence. I'll hire private investigators. You'll what? I asked mildly. Sue me? With what money? I heard Morrison and Associates fired Sloane this morning. That must put a strain on your finances. Carter's face went from purple to white. How did you... Small town. Word travels fast. Jim was looking back and forth between us like he was watching a tennis match. What's this about Sloane being fired? Apparently she was caught using company resources for personal business, I said. And there were some questions about expense account fraud. Very serious stuff. Carter took a step toward me. You bastard. You did this. I didn't do anything except protect myself. Maybe you should have thought about consequences before you decided to destroy my life. I'll destroy you, Carter snarled. I'll make you pay for this. Looking forward to it. Monday morning brought news that made my week. Maya called to tell me that Sloane had been evicted from her apartment. Apparently she'd been living beyond her means for months, using credit cards to pay rent. Without her job, she couldn't make the payments. She's staying with Carter now, Maya said, but his place is being investigated by the IRS. Something about unreported gambling income. I hadn't known about Carter's tax problems, but I wasn't surprised. Rich boys like him always thought the rules didn't apply to them. What about you? I asked. Still moving to Boston? Tomorrow. I already gave notice at my job. Maya, for what it's worth, I forgive you. There was a long pause. Thank you. That means more than you know. Tuesday afternoon, I was working in my shop when Cal burst in, grinning like a kid on Christmas morning. Eddie, you need to see this. He handed me a newspaper. The headline read, Local Yacht Club Owner Under Investigation for Tax Evasion and Illegal Gambling. The article detailed Carter's legal troubles, including allegations that he'd been running an unlicensed gambling operation out of his yacht club. The IRS had seized his assets pending investigation. "It gets better," Cal said. "Keep reading." The second paragraph mentioned that Carter's girlfriend, Sloane Devereaux, had recently been fired from her job at Morrison and Associates for ethical violations. The article painted a picture of a couple spiraling into legal and financial ruin. "How did the newspaper get all this information?" I asked. Cal's grin widened. "Let's just say Mrs. Dorsey has a nephew who works for the paper." Wednesday brought the confrontation I'd been expecting. Sloane and Carter showed up at my house around dinner time, looking like they'd been living in their car, which, given their financial situation, they might have been. "We need to talk," Sloane said. "No, we don't." "Eddie, please, we're desperate." "Good." Carter stepped forward. "Look, Granger, we can do this the easy way or the hard way." "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality check. You've had your fun, but this ends now. We know you sabotaged my boat. We know you got Sloane fired. We know you're behind all our problems." "Prove it." "We don't need to prove it. We just need to make your life as miserable as you've made ours." I smiled. "Go ahead and try." Sloane stepped between us. "Eddie, what do you want? Money? We'll pay you back everything." "With what money?" "We'll figure something out. Just, please, stop destroying us." "I'm not destroying you. I'm just letting everyone see who you really are." Carter's face was getting that familiar purple color. "You sanctimonious prick. You act like you're so innocent, but you're just as dirty as anyone else." "Maybe, but I'm not the one who planned to murder my partner for insurance money." "That was just talk." "Was it? Because the police might be interested in those text messages." Sloane grabbed Carter's arm. "Let's go. This isn't working." But Carter shook her off. "No, I'm tired of running from this loser. You want to play hardball, Granger? Let's play." He swung at me. I saw it coming and ducked, letting his momentum carry him past me. He stumbled and fell, scraping his hands on the gravel driveway. "Carter!" Sloane rushed to help him up. "That's assault," Carter said, wiping blood from his palms. "I'm calling the police." "Go ahead. I've got security cameras that show you throwing the first punch and missing." Carter looked around and spotted the cameras I'd installed. His face fell. "This isn't over," he muttered. "Yes, it is." They left, and I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Thursday morning, I woke up to find my workshop window smashed and "murderer" spray-painted across the side of the building. My security cameras had been covered with black paint, but I had backups they hadn't found. The footage showed Carter and Sloane vandalizing my property around 3 a.m. Clear as day, faces visible, no doubt about who was responsible. I called the police and filed a report. Officer Janet Mills had gone to high school with me and knew I wasn't the type to cause trouble. "This looks like retaliation," she said, reviewing the footage. "What's the history between you and these people?" I gave her the condensed version: the affair, the canceled wedding, the escalating harassment. I also mentioned the text messages about my potential accident. "Do you still have those messages?" I handed her Sloane's phone. "Everything's still on there." Officer Mills spent 20 minutes reading through the messages. Her expression grew more serious with each page. "Mr. Granger, some of these messages could be construed as conspiracy to commit murder." "I know." "We need to bring these people in for questioning." "I was hoping you'd say that." Friday afternoon, I was in Murphy's Tavern celebrating with Cal when my phone rang. It was Officer Mills. "We arrested Carter Bellamy and Sloane Devereaux this morning," she said. "Bellamy's been charged with vandalism, harassment, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. Devereaux is facing similar charges, plus theft for using your credit cards without permission." "What's their bail situation?" "Bellamy's family posted his bail, but they've cut him off financially. Devereaux is still in custody. No one's willing to post her bail." After I hung up, Cal raised his beer. "To justice served." "To justice served." But I wasn't done yet. I had one more surprise planned. Saturday was the day Sloane and I were supposed to get married. Instead of a wedding, I threw a party. A dodged a bullet party, as I called it. I rented the same venue we were supposed to use for the reception, hired the same band, even ordered a cake. But instead of celebrating a marriage, we were celebrating its cancellation. Half the town showed up. Everyone wanted to hear the full story, and I was happy to oblige. I stood up during dinner and gave a speech that would have made a best man proud. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to celebrate my narrow escape from the worst mistake of my life." Laughter rippled through the crowd. 2 weeks ago, I thought I was marrying the woman of my dreams. Turns out I was marrying the woman of my nightmares. But thanks to her own stupidity and my security cameras, I dodged that bullet. More laughter and a few cheers. I learned some valuable lessons from this experience. First, always read the fine print, especially in relationships. Second, never trust anyone who kisses other people just as friends. And third, revenge is a dish best served with a side of public humiliation. The crowd was eating it up. Mrs. Dorsey was practically glowing with excitement. So, let's raise a glass to honesty, loyalty, and the importance of checking your partner's phone messages. Everyone raised their glasses, laughing and cheering. It was the best party I'd ever thrown. As the evening wound down, Jim Patterson pulled me aside. "Eddie, I heard Carter's yacht finally sank completely last night." "Really? That's too bad." "Yeah, the insurance company is calling it suspicious. They're not paying out." "Imagine that." Jim grinned. "You know, I never liked that arrogant bastard anyway." Sunday morning, I was reading the newspaper and drinking coffee when someone knocked on my door. I expected it to be Cal or maybe Mrs. Dorsey with more gossip. Instead, it was Maya. "I thought you moved to Boston," I said. "I did. I drove back for the day. I heard about your party." "It was quite a celebration." She looked around the living room, taking in the remnants of my old life with Sloane. Most of her stuff was gone, donated to charity or thrown away. "Eddie, I have something to tell you about Sloane and Carter." "What about them?" "They're planning to skip town. Carter's family has disowned him, and Sloane's facing serious jail time. They're going to run." "Where?" "Mexico, I think. Carter has some money hidden offshore, and they figure they can disappear until the heat dies down." I considered this information. Part of me wanted to let them go. They were already ruined, their reputations destroyed, their finances in shambles. Maybe exile was punishment enough. But then I remembered the messages about my accident, the casual way they'd discussed my death, the months of lies and betrayal. No, they didn't get to escape. "When are they leaving?" "Tonight. Carter's picking up Sloane when she makes bail this afternoon." I called Officer Mills and told her about the escape plan. She promised to keep an eye on both of them. "We'll arrest them if they try to leave the state," she said. "Flight risk will void their bail." Monday evening, I was working late in my shop when Cal burst in again. "Eddie, you're not going to believe this." "What now?" "Carter and Sloane got arrested at the airport. They were trying to board a flight to Cancun with fake IDs. I looked up from the engine I was rebuilding. Fake IDs? That's a federal crime. Gets better. They had a suitcase full of cash. $200,000. The FBI thinks it's connected to Carter's gambling operation." "So now they're facing federal charges?" "Money laundering, tax evasion, fraud, and attempted flight to avoid prosecution. They're looking at serious prison time." I went back to work on the engine. Couldn't happen to nicer people. The trial was scheduled for 6 months later, but I didn't need to wait that long for satisfaction. The local newspaper covered every development in what they dubbed the wedding scandal. Sloane and Carter became the most notorious couple in town history. Carter's yacht club went bankrupt. Sloane's former employer sued her for the money she'd stolen. Their families disowned them. Old friends crossed the street to avoid them. I, on the other hand, became something of a local hero, the man who'd outsmarted the cheaters and gotten his revenge without breaking any laws. Women started flirting with me at Murphy's Tavern. Men bought me drinks and asked for advice about their own relationship problems. 3 months after the arrests, I got a letter from Sloane. She was in federal prison, awaiting sentencing. "Eddie," the letter began, "I know you'll probably throw this away without reading it, but I had to try. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything. The affair, the lies, the plans we made. I was stupid and selfish and cruel, and I deserve everything that's happened to me. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that I realize now what I lost. You were the best thing in my life, and I threw it away for nothing. Carter turned out to be exactly the kind of man you always said he was, weak, selfish, and cowardly. He's already trying to make a deal with prosecutors to testify against me. Some partnership, right? I hope you find someone who deserves you, someone who's smart enough to appreciate what they have. I wasn't, and I'll regret that for the rest of my life. I'm sorry, Eddie, for everything." I read the letter twice, then threw it in the fireplace. Too little, too late. Carter never wrote. I heard through the grapevine that he was trying to blame everything on Sloane, claiming she'd seduced him and manipulated him into the affair. The prosecutors weren't buying it. 6 months after my canceled wedding, both Sloane and Carter were sentenced. She got 5 years in federal prison for fraud and conspiracy. He got 7 years for money laundering and running an illegal gambling operation. The day the sentences were announced, I threw another party at Murphy's Tavern. This one was even better than the first. I stood up to give another speech, looking out at the faces of friends and neighbors who'd supported me through the whole ordeal. Ladies and gentlemen, justice has been served. The people who tried to destroy me are now where they belong, behind bars. It took 6 months, but the truth finally came out. Cheers and applause filled the bar. I want to thank everyone who stood by me during this difficult time. Your support meant everything, and I want to thank Sloane and Carter for teaching me the most valuable lesson of my life. Trust, but verify. More laughter and cheers. So let's raise a glass to justice, to friendship, and to the fact that sometimes the good guys actually do win. The crowd erupted in applause. Mrs. Dorsey was crying happy tears. Cal was grinning like a proud parent. Even Lou the bartender was smiling. As the evening wound down and people started heading home, I found myself standing alone at the bar, nursing a whiskey and thinking about the past year. I'd lost a fiancée, but I'd gained something more valuable, the knowledge that I was stronger than I'd ever imagined. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. For a moment, I wondered if it was Sloane, somehow messaging me from prison. But when I opened it, I saw it was from Maya. Saw the news about the sentencing. You did it, Eddie. You actually did it. I'm proud of you. Hope you're happy. You deserve it. I typed back, thanks. How's Boston? Good. I'm seeing someone, a lawyer actually. He's nothing like you, but he's kind. I think I'm learning to love differently. I'm glad. Eddie? For what it's worth, I think what you did was brilliant. Sloane and Carter deserved everything they got. Thanks, Maya. That means a lot. Take care of yourself. You too. I put the phone away and finished my whiskey. Outside, the main coast was dark and peaceful. Inside Murphy's Tavern, the last few customers were settling their tabs and heading home. Lou wiped down the bar next to me. Hell of a thing, Eddie. Hell of a thing. Yeah, it was. You ever think about what might have happened if you hadn't found those messages? I considered the question. I'd probably be dead by now, or divorced and broke. Either way, Sloane and Carter would have gotten what they wanted. Instead, they got what they deserved. Justice has a funny way of working out sometimes. Lou nodded and went back to cleaning glasses. I left a generous tip and walked out into the cool night air. As I drove home to my empty house, I thought about the future. For the first time in years, it felt wide open. No lies, no betrayals, no hidden agendas. Just possibilities. I pulled into my driveway and sat in the truck for a moment, looking at the Victorian house that had almost become Sloane's. Now it was mine again, completely and forever. The party was over. The good guys had won, and Eddie Granger was finally free.